We're live.
We're live?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, we want to welcome everyone to council meeting and those that are tuning in outside of the council chambers. We need to call this meeting to order. We have an agenda in front of us. Anybody want to move the agenda with 6.4, the West Selman?
Go ahead, Bryce.
Councilor Capinius?
Yeah, I'll move the agenda with the changes.
Okay, then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Oops, where's mine? Okay. That is unanimous, we'll move on. There's no delegations, number 4, approval of minutes. Everybody had a chance to look at the council minutes from December 15th?
I'll move those minutes.
Councilor Fong moves those minutes. Any discussion from them?
I had one question,
Councilor Fong, go ahead.
just a tiny detail. I noticed the committee of the whole minutes indicate who was connecting virtually and these ones don't. I don't know if it matters or not. I was just curious if there was an intentional difference in the way those were reported or if that was just...
No, we
Didn't
can
everybody?
fix that just for consistency, Councillor Foss.
Yeah, it's probably just a template that wasn't updated for the council meeting versus the committee meetings.
Okay. Anything else, Councilor Foss?
Nothing else, no.
Okay, will you get a motion on this?
We
Councillor
have,
Fromm moved.
yeah.
Okay, then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous then. The council committee minutes from December 22nd.
I'll move those minutes.
Councilor Harper moves. Any discussion on it? Okay, then I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Good. Financial report, accounts payable 1. Any discussion on this from anyone? Can you show them, Abe? There you go. Anybody have a question?
I thought it was pretty straightforward.
More questions on accounts 1? How about number on 2 then? There's no question, we need a motion to accept,
I'll move, Mayor.
you'll move it, Ken, Councilor Hagee, I mean. Okay, then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
We're good. Items for discussions, 6.1, the bylaw 1089-20, the ATCO gas franchise renewal. Go ahead, Curtis.
Yeah, earlier last year, we started the process of going over and renewing our franchise agreement with ATCO Gas to be the sole provider of natural gas utilities within the town of Raymond. This is not on the marketing side of it, but as the actual utility provider. In order to renew that for a period of, I believe it's 10 or 15 years, I'm not 100% sure which, I'd have to review it still, but it's lost my mind on it. But we have to pass through a bylaw. We did first reading on April 7th. It was advertised to the public. We received no comments in opposition to it. It's since been sent up to the Alberta Utilities Commission, and they have reviewed it and given no issues, and so it's been sent back for approval. And so all we need now is second and third reading of this bylaw to enact that new agreement with ATCO Gas, but also to put the bylaw to rest and then have it current going forward. So all we're just looking for is second and third reading if council's supportive of that.
I'll move second reading.
Okay, any reason why they are so long getting back to us?
It's a process to go through, just the Alberta Utilities Commission, having it work through the bureaucratic processes there, doing their due diligence, just is what it is.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Fromm made that motion. Any other discussion?
I did have a question.
Councilor Foss?
This, general provisions, it says the above mentioned agreement, shall form part of this bylaw as an attachment labeled Schedule A. I don't see anything in Schedule A. Is that by intention or by accident?
There should be a second attachment on that one. If you click on that, scroll down past the letter. It's the actual agreement itself, and that's going to be referring to the detail there. So
Oh, that's Schedule A of the bylaw?
yes,
And it is 10 years.
thank you.
I was
Okay.
gonna, that's what I was gonna say too. I was pretty sure that we decided on 10 years, not 15.
Correct.
Was the fee left the same as last year?
The fee was increased from 10% to 12% from 2019 rates. It just took until now to get it current. So from this point on, it will be 12%.
Everybody okay with that? And we need a motion then from someone.
I move second reading.
Councilor Fromm moves second reading. Any other discussion then? If not, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, thank you. Then we can do third reading.
I'll move third reading, Mayor.
Councilor Hagee? Any discussion? Then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, unanimous. Okay, thank you. So, 6.2, the bylaw 993-10 of dog control, amendment for the first reading on it. Abe, you wanna talk about this one?
Sure. So we did have a delegation, I think maybe a couple of months back, requesting that the town waive fees for service dogs, licensing fees for service dogs. And so we've, council agreed with that suggestion, and we've made amendments to the bylaw to waive licensing fees for service and guide dogs. And those changes are made here in section 5.3 and 5.15. So this is up for first reading tonight.
Okay. Now, we've discussed this a couple of times in committee.
So I'll move first reading of that too.
As for John, we've been busy tonight.
Yeah. Been busy all day. It's not over yet.
Any other discussion? If not, then I'll call a vote. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
You good?
We will advertise this to the public. Can't imagine we'll get any negative feedback or opposition to this.
I don't either.
But it's our process, regardless, is to advertise to the public, so we'll do that and bring it back to council.
Sounds good, thank you.
And just one point, can you just look at whether bylaw 993-10 should be 10 or 12, just to make sure that the proper documentation is going through?
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, good catch. Okay, 6.3, the GP 2020-02, the grade compliance with federal policy. Go ahead, is that Curtis or is that,
I can review this.
that's Abe?
Yeah. So, this is a policy that came from the development officer. And I'll just review it quickly here with council. It has been reviewed at the Bylaw and Policy Committee. already, and then by council at council committee meeting. But I'll give you an outline here. The policy will outline the criteria a residential builder is required to meet to qualify for the reduced fee for grade compliance when applying for a Town Raymond development permit for a new principal building or a new home. As part of a development process, as of January 2020, a grade compliance fee is charged to the applicant of the development permit to ensure final grading is compliant according to the submitted engineered drainage plan. Once a new principal building or new home reaches completion and applies for an occupancy permit, the lot is professionally surveyed to ensure grade compliance is completed. And so this policy is in place to ensure that people actually go through this process and to avoid issues with drainage. And basically by following this policy, a home builder, a residential builder who's in compliance and who has enough experience with the town, specifically three new home builds, can have a rebate by following this compliance. I'll just go over some of the objectives. Is to incentivize grade compliance with the approved submitted engineered draining plans, thus eliminating potential drainage issues, grading issues in the future for both the town of Raymond and for owners, which are passed on the owner upon possession. Incentivize residential builders to maintain good standing and reputation within the construction industry. Provide education and awareness to residential builders that grading is an important aspect to a new home build, and provide a competitive edge for residential builders that do return business in the community, to return business in the community. So the policy is up for council approval tonight. Any questions on that?
I think we discussed it pretty thoroughly at our last meeting. It's good policy.
Yeah, I think Mark's done a good job trying to get this presented to us, so we understand it.
Did you mention what the fee was, Abe? Did I miss that? What is the fee? Does it say?
Yep.
What is it? Do you recall?
I think it was $1,500.
So
Yeah, I just wondered if that had changed. I didn't.
it was $1,500. Money, it's been reduced to $1,000 for those that are not part of the eligible home builder list. For those who are on that list, it's $500.
Okay.
Okay. So, everybody understand, we need someone to make a motion?
I'll make
I'll
that.
make that motion.
Council considers we conclude, council. Any other discussion? I think we all are familiar with it, understand it. So I'll call the vote then, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes. And we discussed this lots.
So you'll put that out for the public too?
Smart thing, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Six point four, the West Stillman correspondence. Hope everybody had an opportunity to read the shared notes on this. My first question I have for this, Curtis, is has West Stillman had the opportunity to read that letter from one of our employees?
No, that's a report that was provided to me so I could have some context to discuss with you if you had any questions. We would be massaging the letter a little bit just to remove employees' names that are specifically there. But I mean, the intent of the letter is this is always a challenging conversation to have because it's a very personal and emotional situation, the cemetery and those who are there. And so definitely sympathetic. The challenge is the operators, and maybe I'll just go over the letter just publicly, but I'll just refrain from some of mentioning the things that aren't necessarily public. Everyone had a chance to read Mr. Sullivan's letter, and I appreciate him taking the time to send in that letter for sure. I did have our operations department review the process that was undertaken with respect to that grave particularly, but also just in general. And so just to give some context, a grave with the grave in question that was dug was dug on November 13th, 2020, and it was following a very severe winter storm that was received on November 7th and 8th. The Raymond Cemetery was heavily drifted following the storm, and as much snow removal had to take place to facilitate the digging of this new grave. The snow removal on the roadways of the cemetery are down by the town's backhoe and loader. Block 5 and row 10, snow removal was done by, we have a rubber padded snow blower and hand shovels, and we use those to push the snow in the areas where the people will be congregating and also where the grave will be dug directly. The snow removal that was reported here was done on November 12th in preparation for the grave being dug on November 13th. At that time, if there was damage that would have happened, it would have probably occurred during the snow removal portion, and no damage was reported at that time. Our staff are very aware of the importance of, if something does happen, to let us know, and no one was aware of anything occurring with the snow blower anyway, and with the shovels. The grave in question was dug by a couple of our operators on November 13th. One was in the backhoe, one was the spotter, and one was in the truck. And this is kind of our standard format. The location of this grave did not allow us to use a mini hoe. There would have been less room for clearance of the arm on the mini hoe adjacent to the Selman grave and this other grave's headstone. And so they brought in the backhoe. Now there was some damage obviously then to the turf as the stabilizers went out for the backhoe, but that is part of the process that we remediate as we can, either throughout the winter or into the spring when the growing season starts again. But there was some turf damage that is there. Typically it is filled in with a bit of topsoil just to improve the aesthetic, and that hasn't been done yet, so that is going to be being done. That was just something that was lost, and we apologize for that. But at the time of digging with the backhoe, we're not sure that there would have been an opportunity for the damage that's shown in those pictures to have occurred from a backhoe. That piece of equipment, if it had come into contact with the headstone, would have caused far more damage, we feel, than and not to make light of the damage that is on the headstones, but it would have been far more severe if that bucket from the backhoe was swinging around or excavating and came into contact with the headstone. It would have been worse than what's there. And so it's hard to say. We don't believe that any damage was done through the excavation of this grave in general. We do recognize though that more care could have been taken to ensure that the headstones were covered to prevent mud and other debris from touching them, and so to make them more clean. And so further steps will be taken in the future to make sure that adjacent headstones are all covered with tarps, just to prevent mud from being splashed onto them for sure. And that's something we can definitely improve upon. Our operations staff is, it's an unfortunate occurrence, and they definitely realize the personal nature of the complaint. However, they don't believe that the damage done to the headstone was a result of digging this grave in question, as it's quite small and would have been far greater had it been done by the backhoe. None of the staff reported the crew, and none of the damage was recorded by the crew, and we don't have any to doubt that they wouldn't have let us know. And so it's hard to say if and when it occurred through the digging of that, or if it was done in some other way over time. And so we're just bringing that as a report to you. Again, that does not minimize the difficulty of the Selman's experience, and we're very cognizant of that unfortunate reality, but there's no evidence to necessarily dictate that it was the town crews. And so we're not really sure it's appropriate for the town to accept the responsibility of that from an administrative perspective. However, that's obviously up for council to decide, and we'll happily take direction.
So my first question was, maybe you could have our operator reach out to Mr. Selman and talk to him about it, just on a face-to-face discussion. Except you're saying like this letter, maybe you could take the letter with him.
I'll reach out to Mr. Selman if that's what council would like, and I can have that conversation. We can go over a letter with him. Again, and understandably, I don't know if that'll help assuage their concerns, but I'm definitely open to have that conversation with them. I mean, we are definitely, whatever happened, it's definitely an unfortunate experience, and we are very sad with it. So,
The other question I have is insurance. Is there any kind of insurance that the town has for something like this? Or obviously we've damaged other headstones in the past, or someone else has gone out there and damaged them. Do we have any kind of insurance to repair them?
No, we don't insure every headstone out at the cemetery. Perpetual care is the maintenance of the grass and the grounds around it. Obviously, you know, every effort is ensured to maintain that there is no damage to the headstones themselves or the other monuments that are placed out there, but it's not something that would be covered through our insurance necessarily. And even if it was, I believe it'd be probably beneath the deductible amount anyway, and we wouldn't even be going through insurance for that.
Okay, it's very unfortunate, but yeah, I'm not sure either. That's why I'd like them to have a discussion with Mr. Selman. Anybody else have a comment?
I just have a question. So did they notice any other, I mean, if it wasn't done by the backhoe or by digging the other grave, I mean, was there maybe some vandals or was there any other damage in the area, or did anybody check that out?
Nothing was noticed. I mean, it's hard to say.
Okay, yeah, there's snow and everything. I just wondered if they had looked at that at all.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that we're not trying to say that it did absolutely 100% was not the town. We're just saying that the backhoe very unlikely could have caused that small of damage without causing greater damage, especially in the locations of the two nicks, the little chips on the headstone. They're not necessarily together, and it would have been we're not sure how the headstone could have done, or the backhoe could have done that. If the damage was occurred during that process, it would have likely have been done when they were snow blowing the snow out of that area, and maybe a rock or something chipped, and that's far more likely. But again, our operators do pay attention as best they can. However, there was an awful lot of snow, and it very well could have happened that as the snow is blowing and it's, you know, pushing off 30 or 40 or 50 feet off to the side, that a rock in that snow blowing process may have chipped it. It may have. We have no way to prove that it did or didn't. But if it was to have happened, that could have been it. But again, to our knowledge, no damage occurred during that time. And so we're just bringing this as information to you. It's up to, if you guys would like to do something different, that's totally in your prerogative, and we'll happily comply. But we're not aware of any situation where damage was knowingly done.
Councilor Peters, you had a question?
Yeah, just, Curtis, is it possible to share the photos with other members of council so they can kind of have a little bit more perspective on it?
We can, I mean, every member of council should be able to see them on their agenda package, but Abe, if you will hit just the first locked attachment and then just scroll down to the third of the 3 pages.
Yeah, I've seen them in the attachments.
Yeah, I saw him too.
I was thinking, you know, according to the employee letter, I do also believe that if the backhoe had done that, it would have been much more damage.
I do too.
It's really hard to damage those granite headstones, but the employee letter also implied that it might have been summertime damage from lawn mowing, in which case it's our crews that did it anyway, just which crew, you know? So I think
it's hard to prove that now.
Yeah, it is really hard to prove that.
But it's true. It could have been.
You know, and you asked about insurance, Mayor. I think now that the cemetery has been profitable for a long time, but I mean it could self-insure. I have been on council now for 3 years and have never heard anything like this. But I know there are a few people in town who take meticulous care of their headstones, and the majority of people don't ever go out there, don't ever look, don't care, you know. But if it could be self-insuring, because the cemetery is profitable, if I can use that term in a very, you know, minuscule way, and I don't mind helping out with the damages on this.
I like the part of the report from the operator though that talks about our employees. There's 3 of them working there when they do it, when they
Yeah.
do that.
And they're careful.
And they're very careful, and that's why they have the spotter there to try to make sure. Yeah, and like they said, it's very minimal damage for what a backhoe would do.
A backhoe would have done way more than that. I'm sure it would have, if it did that at all.
That's why I'd really like someone to go talk to Wes about this with that correspondence from our foreman or
Yeah, if that's what council would like, I can set up a time to talk with Mr. Sullivan directly about it. And I mean, again, none of this is trying to shirk responsibility, from something. It's just, it's hard for the town to accept blame for something that we can't totally be aware that we did, because then it's, I don't wanna say open season, but where does it stop? If there was a
Yeah.
knowingly, where damage was done, then obviously that's something we would definitely take care of, but right now it's kind of hard to act on everything on a allegation, if you will.
By the same logic though, it's hard to imagine that someone did that themselves, or that
For
that
sure.
vandals
No
did
one's
it.
definitely making that argument. It's just it's a public thing that's open 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So we're not 100% sure how it started, and definitely the Summons, I'm sure, did not do that. We're just trying to.
And that's my question about, if there was other damage in the area, because obviously somebody had to have something big or heavy or sharp or whatever. I mean, you don't just, that doesn't happen by just walking around, right?
Contact would have had to have been made in some way, somehow. And I mean, again, it's not out of the realm of possibility that it was somehow a town employee in some way, shape, or form at some point that may or may not have had contact, whether it's mowing a rock flying out of the snow blower, out
That's
of
what it
a
looks like to me.
lawnmower. We don't know.
Yeah.
Weed whipper, we don't know.
In which
right?
case we did
It's
it.
never been reported to date.
But-
But
But
we're
that's
pretty
really
sure
true
it
too.
didn't
I
happen
mean, that's why we
during
make
the
them at
excavation.
because they're almost
They're much more
damage
proof.
proof.
Um,
But it gives them character to have nicks and
Yeah.
scratches on them too,
Yeah, so like to me, the damage is more significant than maybe just a rock though. That's the only thing I look at it. That granite's chipped pretty good, especially on that one above, the first one. That's the concern. When I saw the first picture, I thought, gee, maybe a tooth or something caught it. So, but the challenge is we weren't there. The people that were there, we trust that they would have said something so we could rectify this situation right away. This is a tough one.
That's why I'd really like someone to go visit with Mr. Selman, and I will go too if you'd like me to, just to represent council to hear the conversation. But I'd like someone to go visit with him about it. Because I think we have a little bit of a defense too, not that we may be to blame too.
Whatever you decide, we'll happily take.
Is that all right if we just table this for now and let our operations go? If you want me to go, I'll go too. So.
Yeah, that's a start.
Okay, I think that's what we should do. Okay.
Mayor Depew, then I'll set up a time with Mr. Salmon that works, and I'll let you know if you'd like to, and we can go meet with him or do it over a conference or something like that.
Sure, sounds good.
Just one last comment. I can't imagine having to replace the entire headstone. I cannot imagine that some grinder can't come out and polish those out, or even if it makes them, you do take some risk in putting a granite headstone out of the cemetery. That's why we use granite. It's risky to put anything out in the elements. So that can't all be, there's got to be assumed by families too. Things get damaged and everything else, and you try and make them as permanent as possible. But I can't imagine replacing the entire headstone over those chips.
Now that's good comments, good discussion. Let's just table it for now. We'll go talk to him.
So we'll try to meet with Mr. Selman before committee meeting next week and have a conversation then if possible.
Sounds good. Thank you. 6.5, the COVID-19 information. Go ahead, Curtis.
This is just, again, a few attachments with a lot of light reading for those that are still eagerly digesting all this information. But just for your information, there's the actual order for the limited exemption that they gave for those who were single over Christmas time. But anecdotally, theoretically, there's supposed to be an update between now and January 11th when the initial lockdown is supposed to end, given obviously based on what the current realities will be, they'll decide if they're going to carry that on or not. Premier Kenny did post on his Facebook page today, though, that all students will be going back to school come Monday. So we haven't heard anything officially outside of that Facebook post, but that's as much as I know is what may be coming. Organizationally, we'll be looking for direction on the ice arena, and if extended lockout is given for the ice arena, administratively we'll be bringing a recommendation to council just to melt the ice and take it out, as the costs for the limited season just aren't sufficient to justify carrying it on the hope that there'll be, 2 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks left at the end of the year. But that's definitely your prerogative, not ours. But that would be the recommendation we'll be making. So
Okay, we'll wait to hear what happens in a week. Anyone else have any discussion on this? Okay, we'll move on. Committee reports. I don't know if anyone had any committee meetings to go to. I sure didn't during Christmas. We reported 3 weeks ago about this, or 2 weeks ago. Does anybody have anything they want to add to this? There's no written reports.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just want to mention that the Axe Society did that,
Given tree.
for Giving Tree. And I don't have any numbers, so I don't really have a report on that yet, but from what I understand, it went quite well. But I'll make sure I have some numbers for our next meeting.
Good. Good. That's good. Anything that helps our citizens in the town, we appreciate it. One thing I should bring up is one of the counselors in Pitcher Creek passed away from COVID. And I asked Curtis if he would make up a condolence letter from us to send to their town councils. So that'll be happening this week. I'll probably have to go in and sign it. I think they meet tomorrow, so it's gonna happen tomorrow.
okay, yeah, we'll get it and email it off to them tomorrow for sure.
Okay. So we need someone to make a motion to accept committee reports.
I'll move, Mayor.
Councilor Hagee, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, correspondence, we have this 3 letters and correspondence. Does anybody want any discussion on any of these 3?
I think a couple weeks ago I went through and talked a little bit about the Chief Mountain situation and with the committees and things like that, and who the chair and vice chair are. So I think we've covered those minutes already.
Yeah. Okay. Then we need to accept, somebody make a motion to accept correspondence.
I move to accept correspondence, Mayor.
Councilor Harker,
That was a quick
no
meeting.
more discussion on that, then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, well, this might be our shortest meeting ever. We need a motion for adjournment.
I'll do it.
Is that Councilor Fromm?
Yes, please.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
There we go. That's unanimous, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
It's just because everybody wanted to get home and watch the hockey game.
Yes.